All right, so developments taken fast in Pakistan, and to discuss as to what exactly this means for Pakistan and also for the region at large, we're joined in by former Ambassador of India to the United States, Arun Singh. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us. And this is something that was expected over the course of the last few weeks. Nawaz Sharif had been sentenced to 10 years in prison. He has duly returned back to Pakistan and has now been arrested. How do you view this development?
It's clearly a script that could be anticipated. The Pakistani military, the inter-services intelligence, which in effect control and run the politics of that country, were determined to prevent Nawaz Sharif from fighting this time. All through, they have wanted to control politics in Pakistan, orchestrate politics in Pakistan, but eventually they have never succeeded. Because there is a difference in the interest of any elected civilian leadership and the military authorities. And over time, be it Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, Muhammad Khan Junejo at one stage, Nawaz Sharif was initially built up by the army to control basically Bhutto. They have all fallen out with the army because they need to respond to the interests of the people, to bring about development, to look at promoting peace and cooperation in the neighborhood. Army's whole interest is to maintain its establishment, to look at issues from the perspective just of security. So there is this constant struggle that goes on. So even at this stage, when they found that Nawaz Sharif was becoming very strong and was challenging the army, then they tried to prevent him. And you can take the example of Turkey. For a long time in Turkey, it was the military that was ruling. And whether one agrees or doesn't agree with what President Erdogan has been doing overall, what he has done is reduce the power of the military in Turkey, and the civilian leadership has become strong. So there is a similar struggle going on in Pakistan between civilian leaders and the military. So this time the military decided that they didn't want Nawaz Sharif to come back to power. So now they're trying to see if somebody like Imran Khan, whom they were suspicious of earlier, and who has identified himself with the radical right and sometimes the militant parties, they're trying to see if they can use him to orchestrate the politics in Pakistan and control it through him. So it was clear that they would prevent Nawaz Sharif, and Nawaz Sharif had no option but to come back because he needed to signal to his people that he is not scared, he is prepared to do the fight, as he said in the comment you played, that he is prepared to take it to its logical conclusion, that the vote must be respected because their effort would be to challenge the credibility of the elections that are being held on July 25. Because if they are not seen as credible, then the authority of any elected civilian structure would be undermined and people would be looking for alternatives. So it is clearly a script that is anticipated, and I think many ways the struggle is in the lead up to the elections because Nawaz Sharif would hope that with his arrest, with his daughter's arrest, there would be a sympathy wave in his favor, in favor of his party, and they should be able to come with a large number of seats. But even if that doesn't happen, they would want to continue with this, what they describe as this struggle beyond the election. But of course, in Pakistan, as many have commented in the past, very often the voting is free and fair and the counting is completely opaque. Because it is, as you see, it is the military that runs the electoral process. They have a huge presence, they organize the process, they organize the counting. And people have found in the past that although the voting was seen as fair, once the ballot boxes are taken, the counting is done, what emerges seems to be very different from the manner in which the voting and the public opinion polls at the time of voting had shown. So it's a very opaque process and we have to see how it plays out.
Absolutely indeed. But also considering the high drama that played out in the night in Pakistan, you know, it said that it is a scripted sort of a thing that has taken place. But do you think there is more than what meets the eye in this script? Do you suspect that Nawaz Sharif may have struck a deal with the military by returning to Pakistan and getting arrested?
I think it's very unlikely. From what we've seen over the past some time, the relations between military and Nawaz Sharif have really broken down. And even in his earlier term, he had been deposed and there was a coup against him. After that, he became the prime minister. He wanted action taken against General Musharraf. And the military didn't like that Nawaz Sharif wanted to take action against General Musharraf. Last year, if you recall, there was a news item that had leaked in the Dawn newspaper of a meeting between the civilian and military leadership. And at the end of that meeting, the civilian leadership had criticized the military for its involvement with terrorist groups and not taking action against terrorist groups. And the military was very upset with that. And just a few weeks ago, again, Nawaz Sharif in his comments had criticized the military for not taking action against those involved in the Mumbai terrorist attacks and not allowing the legal process to proceed. So I think there is a fundamental difference of opinion between Nawaz Sharif and the military at this stage in terms of how Pakistani politics should go ahead. And I would be very surprised if there's any kind of a deal between them.
But what actually makes a lot of people look at it with a certain amount of skepticism is that Nawaz Sharif, while he was in London, had said that he suspected that elections this time were going to be rigged, they were not going to be free and fair, and therefore for him to return to an election that was clearly stacked against him doesn't actually make sense.
So he's not going to contest. So I think
but his party is contesting, and and he has a major stake in that.
Absolutely. So if he had stayed away, I think he would not have been able to generate a major sympathy wave for himself and his party. And it could have been played out that he's scared of coming back, he's not coming back, he doesn't want to engage with the electoral process. But by coming back, he's signaling that I'm not scared. I'm willing to take the challenge head on and see where it leads. And of course, Nawaz Sharif himself has been not a completely positive factor in relations with India. Initially, he had built up his political career on an anti-India platform. But later on, he tried to move cooperation and the peace process with India in 1999 with Prime Minister Vajpayee. And also later, he spoke about peace and cooperation with India. So we should be mindful of the contradictions. But that having been said, if he had stayed away, then he, the political leader, and his party would have been undermined. And by coming back, he has certainly enhanced the prospects of a sympathy wave in his favor, in his party's favor, more votes, more seats. But we have to see. I mean, one can't rule out that the army would try and influence the voting and the counting process to make sure that the PML doesn't get enough seats. Because last election, they wanted to make sure that the PPP stays out. And encourage the PML to get more seats. And they succeeded in that. This time their effort is to keep both PPP and PML out and encourage a structure around Imran Khan to emerge into power. At Zia's time, they had done same with Prime Minister Junejo. But even then, Junejo and Zia had fallen out. So it's a very complex process. And since Pakistan's independence, either the military has ruled directly or indirectly from behind the scenes. But the struggle between the military and civilian authorities has continued because there are contradictions in their interests.
Absolutely, indeed. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Arun Singh, for joining us and getting us that perspective. It was a dramatic night that took place in Pakistan. The former Prime Minister has now been arrested. It now remains to be seen as to where it actually all leads up to.